Okay, hey there.
Hey,
Great.
Brian.
I know, right? Listen, long time no see, but no,
Yes.
thank you, for taking the time to join me today on the Journey to Parenthood podcast. Look, I don't really have like a full out name for it, but look, for right now, because I plan on
We're
launching
going to run
January
with
1st, we gonna work it. All right.
it.
So, but yes, but thank you for joining us today, and then talking about your journey. So,
Yeah.
like I said, I want to bring it full circle. So with that
Yeah.
being said, so how did you and your husband meet?
Yes. So we originally met in preschool. We went to the same daycare. But in 2013, his really good friend married one of my really good friends. And so it was like, we saw each other. We're like, wait, I think I know you. We start talking and we put pieces together. We was like, oh, we was in the same preschool class. And then from there, it's been us. So since 2013, we dated and then we got married in 2017 and relocated to Houston from St. Louis. And that's kind of our story.
Yes. So you have the perfect husband. You
Yeah.
have the perfect family.
Yeah.
You're in a city that you love. Look,
Yeah.
moved from St. Louis
Yeah.
to Texas.
Yeah.
Um.
The
So where
career
did
was banging.
listen?
Like,
Yes, you had
yes.
a mom job.
Yeah.
Work
Yeah.
with children. You had
Mm-hmm.
listen. You had HNIC of that. Look,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
head principal. So
Yeah.
I mean, you all of these things.
Yep.
Where did kids come into play? Like, is
Yeah.
that something that you
Well,
always talked about? You always
always. Yes. Always wanted kids. One of my priorities was to be a mother, right, and a wife. And so my husband and I talked about it, very early on, and even dating, and like what were our goals for a family. And then so once we got, married, I was like, okay, it's time. And so just thinking like I'm ready, so it shouldn't be a problem. Like we should be, get pregnant and move on. And that was not the case at all. Tried for a very long time to naturally conceive. And then even went to the OBGYN and specialists and had all kinds of tests and procedures done to see like, why is it not happening? And then in 2019 is when we were told that we would not be able to naturally conceive. And so our only options at that point to becoming parents per our doctor was like IVF or through egg donation. And so it was like my heart was ripped out of my chest because I knew like I wanted to be a mother and this person is telling me that that is no longer an option. And so once gathering all of our emotions from that conversation, decided like that's not the route that we wanted to go. Like there are thousands of kids in this city who need families. And so that same day that we got the news, we end up going to an orientation for a foster to adopt organization. And so we went that evening and then we started the process for the application. It took about 6 months to do it.
Okay.
It was a lot. Like they want bank financials. You had to have references. You had to have a TB test, all types of background checks. They came into our home and interviewed my husband and I separately, us together. They just combed through every piece of your life. And it took about 6 months until we finally received our license to foster to adopt. And so we received our license in June of 2019 and got a call for our oldest son in July of 2019. So it took no time at all. And so although I was first disappointed that I wasn't going to be able to carry our child, or it's not necessarily our biological child, God had other plans for us. And so, yes, we began fostering our oldest son in July of 2019 and then adopted him in March of 2021.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful
Yeah.
day. Beautiful
Yeah.
day. So just kind of like taking it back as well, as far as like when you talk about like the test that you took,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Can you kind of walk through like?
Yeah. So first had a procedure that allowed for them to check my uterus and my fallopian tubes. Everything looked pristine. What ended up happening is I had no egg supply. And so, women are born with the eggs that they're going to have for the rest of their lives. And for whatever reason, I didn't have many. And so that's why they gave us the option to do like a egg donation. So getting an egg from another woman and combining it with my husband's sperm to get an embryo. And for me, that just was not an option. But yeah, I've been healthy. I've been doing all of the things. Like I never, ever thought that I would have any challenges with conceiving.
No, I trust. I understand it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I understand that. So, when you're going through this journey, what was like your mental state and your husband's, during this time? Because men sometimes are different when it comes to grief, and I'm gonna call it grief because
because it is grieving the fact that we could not biologically have children. Yes. I think for me at first, when we sat across from the doctor and he was just like so stone faced and cold and saying, well, it's not gonna happen, and he kind of like pushed the Kleenex box towards me, and I was like, oh, this is what we're about to do. So it just hit me like a ton of bricks for somebody to be able to just take that away from me. So I thought at that moment. But then my faith is very strong. And so I knew if my heart's desire was to be a mother, that the Lord was going to see fit that I became a mother. It was just going to look different. So I would say after probably a couple of hours of allowing the raw emotions to process and having a conversation with my husband, and then, we always got to call our mama. And she had to put everything. Yes. And so she had to put everything in perspective and just remind me of like who ultimately is in control of this decision. And so sucked it on up and moved on. And like I said, that evening we went to that orientation. And from then on, it was like, okay, this is the goal. This is where we put our focus in rather than dwelling on what was not going to be. It was like, how are we now going to make this happen?
Right. Right.
Yep.
And where did your support system come from?
So it came from everywhere. So from my mom to my dad, my brother, my husband, of course, even my in-laws. We have tons of friends here, and my coworkers. Like it has never been a secret, right? So everyone knew like Drea want to have kids, Drea want to be a mom, and so then when the news came that it wasn't going to happen the way we thought it was, we shared it with people, and then everybody was like, okay, so what's next? And people were willing to like, I'll be a reference. What do you need us to do? Okay, I can do a background check so I can watch the kids. And so our village was, is solid. And so it came from those people who are still around now that we got 2 kids. Yeah.
I know that is a lot. That's it. One is a lot.
Yes, Lord.
But no, that's really good because a lot of people don't have those that support.
Yeah.
And kind of like what you were saying as far as like our families. Like I would tell my mom like things that I have to do as far as I go to the fertility. And I could tell like she's supported, but it's like she don't understand, because she like, we ain't have to do like this one around.
You just got pregnant.
Exactly. And her kids 14 years apart. So it's like you had a, huge stretch or whatever.
Yeah.
Also going back, at what age did you start trying?
35, 36.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Later on in life. Yeah.
Yeah. I had my first at 39, girl. Yeah. But it's they tell you that, know what I'm saying? And like you were saying, you are born with, which I forget about, but you're right. You are born with so many eggs. And that's just kind of like what it is.
Yeah. And I think women are now, I'm 42 with a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, right? But I think we yes, it was a goal to be a mother and a wife, but also I knew it was a goal of mine to be an amazing educator, right? And so I wanted to make sure that I had all my ducks in a row before I was able to provide, for a child and to create a family. And so for some of us, it just took a little longer. But I feel like I couldn't imagine doing this in my 20s or my early 30s. Yeah,
that part.
my mental wouldn't prepare for that. I got a little bit more patience now.
That's
Yeah,
exactly how I feel.
yeah,
That's it. Things happen for a reason. And timing.
yeah.
I think timing is everything.
Hmm.
We don't see it in the moment,
Hmm.
but again, it is what it is.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, do you did you then have any triggers? If somebody may have said something, or I'm pretty sure
Hmm.
you got the question when y'all first got married.
Hmm.
Okay, so when the kids coming? You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And
Hmm.
then you like, oh well, I mean, we,
Right.
that kind of thing. So like, did you have any triggers, and
Yeah.
what were they?
Um, Triggers, yes, but not like in the sense of like if somebody announced that they was pregnant, like I was sad or any of that. It would come at unexpected moments, like watching something on Instagram and somebody doing a gender reveal or something like that. And I'm like, oh, I would never have that, opportunity. And then it would fade. But yes, for sure, like seeing people experience things that we would never experience. Getting to tell your family that you're pregnant and all the cute pregnancy announcements. Yeah, those would definitely remind me that that would never be my journey or my story. But I also have a very unique one that I'm very proud of. So yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, and it doesn't look like how we all, I think what I think I struggle with is pivoting, right?
Mm-hmm.
When things don't go, I've always had like okay, this is what I want my life to
Mm-hmm.
look like. This is that.
Mm-hmm.
But what it doesn't, it is hard to, make that turn and be like, all right, like you said, like
Mm-hmm.
that's not my journey,
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay,
It
like,
is.
because as you stated, why you did not, and just to be, you did not do like the IVF and egg donation
Mm-hmm.
because you just was like, that's just not what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then you like said like, hey, there are a million kids out here
Mm-hmm.
who need love and need to be with a beautiful and
Yeah.
happy family and a
Yep.
stable family as yours, as you and your husband's. And
Mm-hmm.
he was like, it is what it is,
Yep.
you know.
Yep. Yeah, I
But
mean,
yeah,
we could have went down that road. We just chose not to.
girl, that stuff expensive.
It is, and it's no guarantee either, right? Like I know people who've gone through several cycles of IVF and never was able to conceive. And so, yeah, we weighed the pros and cons for, doing fertility treatments or going the foster to adopt route. And it just made more sense for us to go the foster to adopt route, even thinking about like all the hormones and all of the things that would have to go into my body. I just was not at a place where I wanted to do that.
Absolutely, yeah, that's totally understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Totally understandable. But hey, I listen. I'll when okay, and then kind of like going back to when you said
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of work to be done
Mm-hmm.
when to become just even a foster
Mm-hmm.
parent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What did that look like within those 6 months? Was it grueling?
Yeah.
Was it yeah, like how was your even mental state then, like with
Yeah.
all of, like you said, the background checks, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know it's a lengthy process.
Yeah, very lengthy. So it starts off with like you doing the basic, like the paperwork, the packet part of it. And then there were classes that my husband and I both had to go to from, I think we went from 4 to 9 on Tuesdays and Thursdays for like 6 weeks. And then there were online courses that you had to take. Then there were the interviews. Then you had to put together like a portfolio, and your portfolio was then taken to a committee. And based on all of what you submitted to the agency, they then decided if they were going to award you the license to foster to adopt. I think for me, it was just like, okay, this is something we have to do. And so I think I played a bigger part than my husband. For him, I was just like, can you sign this paper? I don't think he actually knew what all was happening until the people was, I was like, okay, this person coming on this day, I need you to act like you got a little bit of sense. But besides that, he was just like, he was for it. And also, he was in the background because at that point, I was just like, move out the way. I know all that needs to happen. I know where all the documentations are. I got it. But yeah, it was definitely a lot. And I think it's a lot to weed out those who are not in it for the right reasons. Like if you're not in it for the children and you in it for a check, this was going to weed you out because who got the time? It was hours after work, doing all of the things. And so your heart definitely had to be in it to put in the additional time each day to make it through the process.
Yeah. No,
But they also told us when we were going through our classes, my husband and I were the only Black family in our cohort. And so I remember the facilitator speaking to us in front of everybody and was like, they're going to get a child first, right? If you're open to a Black child, especially a Black boy, you don't have, they a dime a dozen. You're not going to have any issues at all.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting. I have never, okay.
Yep.
So, because they don't want the Black kids, or they don't want they don't want the Black boys.
Right. The Black girls, yeah, I mean, they'll take them, but the Black boys, mm-mm. And so he told us that. And so when we got our license in June, and then they called us about our oldest son, July 24th. And I was at work. It was my first year as a principal, and we were doing like summer professional development, and our agency called, and they were like, we just got a call for emergency placement of a 10-month-old. And emergency placement means like the judge just signed the order and they have already been taken. And so we feel like you guys will be the perfect fit. And so I was like, hold on. I had to call my husband on three-way because you have to make the decision right then. Because if you don't, they go to the next agency and you can miss, getting that child. My husband was at work and I was like, look, what we gonna do? And he was like, okay. And within 3 hours, he came to our house from when we got that phone call. So I had to leave work. We were at Target because you have to set up your home and have a room for the child, but you don't know the age of the child. So you don't have clothes, you don't have Pampers, you don't have any of that. So when they call and tell you, you got to go buy all of the things for that specific child. And so, the caseworker brought him 3 hours later and it was like, here you go. But then even in that moment, you don't know how the case is going to go. And so in the state of Texas, the primary goal is like family reunification. And so that's the goal, right? Is like for the mom to do whatever she has to do to get her child back is the goal. And so the parents have to work like a service plan and they're given so much time. A year is what they're actually given. Some do it before, some don't at all. Some get an extension. And then COVID came during our first placement. And so it is definitely an emotional roller coaster for those who end goal is adoption. So you have some foster families who all they do is foster. And so they just have a revolving door of kids who come in and out of their home. But for us, we were fostered to adopt because our end goal was to get our child. And so you have the emotional roller coasters of the court hearings and what is the birth mother doing? What is she not doing? Every time the caseworker would call, I would be like, okay, it's today the day they gonna call and say they coming to pick him up. Like I would get nervous and anxious when either our agency or his CPS worker called. But I then formed a relationship with the birth mother. And so we would text back and forth. Even when she was in rehab, we would FaceTime. And so we had built like a friendship. And so she felt because at first she asked for him to be moved from our home to somebody she knew because she didn't know where he was or how he was doing. And so the caseworker suggested, like, hey, why don't you reach out to her and just like share pictures with her and let her know so she can feel comfortable with him being with you guys. And so we did that, and she would like text me on Mother's Day, and like she was very grateful for my husband and I. And the demons just wouldn't let her go, and she couldn't kick her habits. And so we got to a point in the case where the judge was just like, it seemed like y'all have a relationship, so I'm allow y'all to go figure this out, and y'all come back and tell me what's gonna happen. And so I just asked her, I said, would you allow us to adopt him? And she said, yeah. And she met her lawyer at a Mexican restaurant, and she relinquished her rights. And so the father was unknown, so we didn't have to, do anything on that end. And so she allowed us to adopt him, and she was just as thrilled as we were. Yeah.
Oh, so to this day, and this is with your oldest son.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, you guys still have that relationship, or she's?
No, she has. We haven't heard from her. I say it has been probably 2 years since we lost contact. Like, she has our number. We don't know, where she is or what's going on. I tried to track her down, but have been unsuccessful. She may have gotten to the point where it's become too much for her. We don't know. And so, but for it's not a secret, right? Like, we talk about adoption. He doesn't understand at 5 years old, right? But when the time comes, we will have the conversation with him, but we talk about it around him. I asked him, do we know what it means? I said, do you remember living anywhere else before you came? And he like, no, he was 10 months old. So we are all that he knows, but there is no secret. Like, that's one thing that we said we never wanted our kids to find out later on in life that they were adopted. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, right? Like,
it is.
Somebody else, his birth mother served as the vessel to give us our child. And so we celebrate it every year. We celebrate the day we were able to adopt him.
Yes. Listen, because surrogacy is expensive.
Yeah.
Like,
it definitely is.
Now, was there a huge financial cost from? So I guess, what would you recommend people do the foster the adoption route? Because I know adoption is expensive.
It's very private adoption. Yes,
right.
Private
okay.
It's very expensive. The route that we went, we got paid. And so being foster parents, you actually get a stipend every month, like a cost of living stipend. And then they also pay for daycare, as long as they're a foster child. And so you're not really accruing any extra expenses. The state is actually saying thank you and giving you a stipend and paying for childcare. And the child also has Medicaid. So you don't have to worry about, adding them to your insurance or any of that. But once we went from foster parents to an adoptive placement, the daycare and the stipend cut off. But both of our boys will continue to have Medicaid until they're 18 years old. And then in the state of Texas, they each get a stipend every month for $400. And so my husband and I, we never spent the checks. We put them in a savings account. I mean, we was living anyway, right? We had to pay the mortgage. We had to buy food. Right. And so we saved that money. And so for our oldest, when we adopted him, we went to Disney World. And so we used some of that to give him the experience of going to Disney World. Things that he wanted. He wanted a play set in the backyard, so he got to pick that out, and he bought that. But yeah, that money is there for them. So when they get of age, you want a car, you want whatever, you have money set aside. And then both of them, as long as they go to a state school in Texas, their college tuition is paid for. We don't have to pay for anything. So anytime a child is ever been a ward of the state, they get free college tuition up until they can get as many degrees as they want to, up to a PhD, and the state of Texas will cover it.
Wow. Yeah. And this is even because it doesn't matter. Well, not say it doesn't matter. Since they are yours, like these are your babies, it doesn't matter.
That benefit comes with them, for them.
Oh
Yep.
wow.
So they keep their Medicaid until they're 18, and then they get their and their stipend until they're 18, and then they get
Girl,
their
that's
college tuition paid for.
blessing.
But people don't know.
That,
Yeah,
look,
people don't know.
No, they
Speaking
don't.
of, say hi to Bren. Say, hey, TT Bren.
Hi, what's up?
Okay, go back on. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, but
okay.
people don't know. You have to do your research, right? That comes out when you, because some people get licensed through the state, and the state just giving you a license. But then we went through an agency, and we chose the agency because they give you support. You get a clinician, the child gets a social worker. They come out and visit. They do all of the things. There are additional classes that you can take. And so that's how we learned all of the perks of going the foster to adopt route.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, the more you know, more people know. I don't think people listen.
Yeah.
But outside of all of the perks, what is your advice? What would your advice be for someone who is similar, in a similar situation as you? Because there are families out there that are in a similar situation.
My advice is to do your research, right? And then you just have to figure out what works best for your family and your situation. Like fertility is not a one size fits all, and neither is fostering to adopt. And so I think the best advice I can give people is just do your research, right? Find, if you want to go the foster to adopt route, what are the agencies in your city? Even doing research on those agencies. Some are top notch and some just in business for I don't know why, right? And so figuring out what is the best fit for you and your family. What are you looking for? What type of support are you looking for? But whatever decision it is, also pray on it. Like what you can get the answers through prayer most of the time. But yes, definitely do your research.
Yeah, that's really good information.
Yeah.
Are you open to people contacting you if they have questions or something like that?
Yeah.
And what's the best contact for you? Is would it be Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah.
What?
I mean, for sure. I mean, on Instagram, I'm Miss Drea81. And then also feel free to email me at andreaturner81@gmail.com. I mean, I'm an open book. However, I can support, especially our people, in the journey of becoming mothers. I'm all for it. Yep.
Well, look, I appreciate that, and like you say, open book. I'm the same.
Yeah.
I'm look.
Yeah.
Any last words that you have?
No, I mean, just because you cannot conceive naturally does not mean that you cannot become a mother, right? There are several different ways to accomplish that goal. And for each of us, it may look different. Also, don't let the older folks tell you what you can and cannot do. Like, it is 2023. Things are just looking different. They're happening differently. And so, as you were stating earlier, sometimes the older generations don't understand the things that we have to deal with or the decisions that we have to make. And so don't let anybody discourage you away from what your heart desires.
I love that. Oh, okay. So look, my last question is, so in our community, there's a stigma with adoption, right? As far as children and, behaviors and things like that. What can you debunk from your experience, right? Again, what can you debunk from the myths out there?
Yeah.
In regards to
being an educator, all these kids nuts. Those that ain't adopted, those y'all biologically had, something wrong with all of these kids. And so both of our sons came from birth mothers who were drug addicts. One, our oldest, she was able to not do drugs while she was pregnant. Our youngest, not so much. And so our youngest son, we actually had to have him in occupational therapy and physical therapy because there were some developmental delays. But because of, I think, the work that I do and me being able to notice like something's not right, we was able to, prevent it from getting any further. And so he's now on track. He graduated from physical therapy and occupational therapy. He running the house. And so just like you don't know what you're going to get with your biological kids, right? Like anything could happen. And so for foster kids, a lot of them just missing the structure, the nurturing, the love, the consistency, right? And so some of the behaviors that they are known for have to do with that. So if you're able to provide them with what they need, the behaviors can, deplenish, or just like with anything else, you get them the services that they need. And because they are in foster care, a lot of those services are free. A lot of those services are convenient, like they will go to the school or they'll come to your home. But yes, I wouldn't. The myth is just like they bad. You don't know what you're gonna get. They got mental illnesses. You don't know what you're gonna get with any child. And so I wouldn't allow that to deter anyone from going the foster to adopt route if they choose to. But also, you get a history before you say yes. They'll tell you the history of the parent or the parents or the child if they're older, if they've been in a foster home before. Here is what's happening. Here's how they're doing in school. So you do get background information. You also, when we got licensed, they ask you, what are you willing to accept and what are you not? And so you get to pick like the age, the race. Are you open to a child that may have been exposed to drugs? What about a child who was sexually assaulted? What about a child? You get to decide all of that when you go through the process. And so for us, we end up being open to a basic needs child, which means a child who had like no handicaps, no disabilities, no like mental illnesses. That's what we got licensed for. And so if they come across a child who does not meet your criteria, you don't get a call. And so that helps as well, is you being honest with yourself on what are you willing to accept? What are you capable of accepting in your home? And so for my husband and I, it was like, okay, at this point in our life, we can't do a medically fragile child or a child who needs therapy 5 times a week because we're at work. And so I think sometimes people feel as though having those parameters make you look bad, but it doesn't. What makes you look bad is accepting a child that you can't care for. And so being very clear on what you are able to handle.
Mm-hmm. That is so true.
Yeah.
Because people will get in these situations and then they start abusing the kids.
Right.
You know,
wanting them to be taken away from their home, like, I just can't do this. That's more detrimental to a child, being placed in a home. And then now you got to leave that home because they can't meet your needs. And so it's just like part of the process is doing some soul searching, right? And thinking through, like, is this actually what I want to do? Because some people decide, like, actually, I've decided I don't want to be a parent at all. Like, I'm good now, right? And so
look,
you don't want to,
like you said, biological mothers do that too. Like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, I won't do this.
Look, Black China, yes. Look, about her kids. Look, I'm like, it must have be that luxury. I don't have
at all. Look, at all.
We in this to the end.
To the end.
Till they throw me in the ground.
That's right. That is it. Yeah, that's it. But
thank you.
You're welcome
so much. I know you will inspire so many people.
Yeah.
But you definitely inspire me.
Yeah.
If that's the route that we may have to take. So hey, like you said, even these biological, you don't know what you gonna get because they are crazy.
Especially with these pandemic babies, them pandemic babies and after. So yeah, I mean, it's great. At the end, the reward is so sweet. So
absolutely. Like, and again, it's just like with friends. they become your family.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? As you know,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to be blood to be like,
Right.
oh, we related. Like,
Right.
that's my family.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, these my
definitely,
kids. So people are like, the oldest one's starting to look like your husband. I'm like, yeah, he is morphing into looking like us.
Oh, and y'all say y'all always wanted boys? Look, I love being a boy mama.
Yeah.
Cause
Yeah, I can't.
right, you that whole the hair.
I can't.
Listen, honey,
I don't know how to part hair, comb hair. I don't know how to do any of it. No, I'm just a boy. I mean, because boys, you just like going over there, play with that truck, do whatever. They fall, they get up. That's my personality. I can't.
Yes, and that's okay. Look, like you say, you know, listen, you
gotta know yourself.
Right. And see, yes, that was a good thing because like you said, look, because when you do conceive, you don't get to pick. Well, you do with IVF, but again, that still comes with risk. But again, look, you already knew. Look, I want to be a boy, my period. You can't make that determination when you.
And you get to pick the age. I didn't have to go through the newborn stage either times. Our oldest was 10 months, the youngest was 8 months. So we were sleeping.
That at 10 months, that's good though.
Yeah.
That is good that he was sleeping at 10 months. Yeah. Wait a minute, and then when did you get your youngest son?
He was 8 months.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's 2 now. Yeah. And we got him because our oldest son for 6 months, because we were done. Like we was one and done. And then our oldest son kept saying, I want a brother. And we were like, oh, okay, yeah. And he kept saying it for like 6 months. And so we were like, okay, we're going to open our home back up. And so, because we had closed it. And so we reached out to our agency and we were like, okay, we want to open our home back up. And so there was some classes we had to take, some updates we had to do to our file in order to open our home back up. And we opened it up, and a week later, they were like, so we have our youngest son been in foster care since he was born. So he left the hospital and went to his first foster home, but they were foster only. And so when it was like, okay, the birth mother, she not doing anything, they changed the goal to adoption by a non-relative. And so we got the call to say, hey, here's the situation. Would y'all be interested in like being submitted to becoming his adoption placement? And so his caseworker and lawyer went to almost like every agency in the city, and they got, I think everybody submitted like 3 families, but at the end of it, we were chosen to be his adoptive placement. And so he came to us at 8 months, and then we adopted him on November 10th. Yeah. And that's it. Now, this, I promise, that is it. I don't care who want a who, it, nobody, no.
They're going to be like, I want a sister next. Like, I want a sister. You're going to be like,
it's over.
But they grow up together.
Yeah.
But that is, I'm big on like having two. But I understand people who, have one and they, like say one and done, and that's okay too. But,
it was easy. I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, it's definitely, so our oldest think he's the dad, and he remembers like the day we went and got our youngest. And he's like, I remember we went to get him. And so. And then when we went to court a couple of weeks ago, he was like, we going to court so his last name can be Kitchen. And I was like, yep, that's exactly what we doing. So he was really excited about it. But don't ask for not damn nothing, because can't nobody else come in here. That's it.
But they're close.
Yes.
And I know y'all gonna raise them to be listening. This show, listen.
That's it. That's all you got.
All you got.
That's it. Yes.
All you got.
Yeah.
Yeah. Teach them to always be close to each other.
Yep.
Like, look, that's your brother, and don't let nobody say nothing different.
Yep. That's right.
But well, hey girl, look, I think that I do appreciate that. I'm gonna stop the recording.
Okay.
Oh wait. Oh, all right.